Hey guys, welcome to Talking Roll Express episode 8 in your house NXT TakeOver. I'm Lewis, I'm joined by Thomas, Oliver and Cammy. A few facts about NXT TakeOver before we begin. It was the 28th edition of the In Your House pay-per-view, produced by World Wrestling Entertainment at the time. It was preceded by St. Valentine's Day Massacre and will hopefully be followed up by another. It occurred on June 7th, 2020 at Full Sail University in Winter Park, Florida. It drew an official paying audience of 0 people. It was made up of 6 matches, giving it a 2 hour 17 minute runtime. On commentary you've got Mauro Ranallo, Beth Phoenix and Tom Phillips. Match wise you have Mia Yim, Shotzi Blackheart and Tegan Knox versus Candice LeRae, Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez, Finn Balor versus Damian Priest, Keith Lee versus Johnny Gargano, Adam Cole versus Velveteen Dream, Karrion Kross versus Tommaso Ciampa, and in the main event Io Shirai versus Charlotte Flair versus Rhea Ripley for the NXT Women's title. Right guys, initial impressions of this pay-per-view.
I've seen my arse here. I've absolutely seen my arse here because, well, I give the modern product such a fucking slag in. But watching this, I was marking out. I was excited. I was really enjoying myself. But I've always had an exception for NXT. But to actually sit and watch an NXT pay-per-view and drink it in, it was really quite something. I'll carry on with this, but obviously we all grew up in an era where women were valets, managers, the occasional bit to look at, or moving later on, you'd have a fucking mud wrestling match. So to see the pay-per-view being opened and closed by 2 matches with women in it, and to be the 2 of the best matches on the card, it just goes to show how far we've come as well.
For me, with this show, I've been watching quite a lot of the product, but only on the network. I don't watch like Raw and SmackDown. All that I'll kind of watch NXT weekly now and again. Not as much as I used to, but I'll always watch pay-per-views. I'll always watch them. And for me, this was the first show I've seen since this pandemic's kicked off that I felt they've got it. It was the first time I didn't miss the fans. Now, that's not for me to say the fans would have obviously made it better. But when I was watching it, I was like, no, is there something working here? They've actually got this down, how to perform without fans.
Yeah, I didn't. It was quite jarring to have the no fans thing, but at the same time, yeah, it didn't. They covered it well, so to speak.
Well, I mean, I'll just mention right off the bat, this is the first official WWE pay-per-view I've seen timeline-wise since SummerSlam 2010. So nearly 10 years ago since I've watched one of these things fully. The opening 2 minutes is really got me reeled in. They do the opening thing where it's the revolving WWE logo, and it's like the premier voice in sports entertainment. And that took me all the way back to like the Mania 13 opening package. I immediately recognise the voice. If any of you follow that Screen Junkies channel on YouTube, it's the same guy, John Bailey, that does the voice of the Honest Trailers. And I immediately came unglued for that. They do the opening 97 music in the video package. It's very black and white. It's very throwback-ish. And I was getting all the kind of warm feeling. I thought, all right, this is going to be like a dead tribute act to, the In Your Houses of yesteryear, not the kind of the later In Your Houses like Over the Edge and St. Valentine's Day Massacre. We get Todd Pettengill, which is always a welcome surprise. The green screen in our Skype chat actually looks better than the green screen in that pay-per-view. Aside from that, but I just, because I really want to start off positive before I get into more of the negatives. I'll say everything before the Code Orange music concert was gold, and then the Code Orange music hit, and it just took a nosedive for me, quality-wise. So we'll get into that later on. But what did you guys make of the opening package?
Yeah, I just want to quickly get over my feelings for the pay-per-view before we move on, and that I'm not into the product as a whole. I don't think there's any one person with enough time in the world to consume the modern product, seeing as they're trying to fill a whole network now. But I think me and Lewis have actually had some private conversations via voice chat where I've tried my best to sell NXT especially to him, and I'm really, really excited to be covering this, and I don't feel like I was let down despite, given the current circumstances in the world and the way they've had to adapt with the product. In regards to the intro, I was super excited that they had Todd Pettengill. He's underutilized, in my opinion, throughout this evening. I think the green screen was intentional with references that you're getting later on. But yeah, the Code Orange thing, it's not as effective in this format. Like, you know, with the lack of crowd, it was lip synced. I'm certain it was lip synced, which doesn't make a lot of sense. Seeing as you've not got a crowd, so you can stop and cut. It's not live, so you could easily set up the performance and actually play it. I would have been interested to have watched that a little bit more. It went on hella too long, seeing as the song is plastered all over the friggin' pay-per-view. I think they were just trying to make it feel a bit special, add on that one wee bit, but I agree with Lewis. I got really excited, and all of a sudden, brick wall, please stay in your seat, and you're forced to kind of consume that for a while.
Well, I mean, I didn't just take against the Code Orange lightly. I actually made a note here. I'd rather be stuck in an arena with Agent Orange than Nerdcast. I was really not having fun with this at all. This is actually, I would say, the Code Orange performance was actually worse than the Lumberjeffs Jarrett performance. Not in the same way. It's like opposite side of the spectrum bad, but still pretty bad.
See, the thing is, I'm a big Code Orange fan, and yeah, this just didn't land for me.
Right.
Yeah, I would say I quite like Code Orange as well, and I found myself skipping through it and still finding it too long.
I've never actually heard of them before, other outside wrestling promos, to be honest with you. And it's not. I'm into most things, but that particular track wasn't really my cup of tea, which kind of just put salt on the wound a wee bit for me.
Ollie, see how you're a fan of it. See that song that they were playing in the intro. Is that indicative? Is that like the rest of their discography? Is that like?
Yeah, that's pretty much on the money.
I feel sorry for them now.
Right. Getting into the 6-woman tag team match. Just noticed there's a Titantron above the ring, which is a weird place to put a Jumbotron. But is that a new thing, or was it like that on NXT before? Again, because this is my first exposure to NXT.
Everything's smaller to put less emphasis on the fact there's not a crowd there. So even the set in itself seems a bit claustrophobic. It's the best they probably could have done given the circumstances, I feel. And it is actually another step into making it feel a little bit more organic than an empty arena. Or even they were just using an empty sort of TV set before, and it felt brutal.
I just the female wrestlers here, I felt like they were all kind of slight variations on that whole create a wrestler deal from the SmackDown vs Raw games, at the risk of sounding, there was a real homogenous quality to them that, again, even in maybe some of the worst years like 95 and 96, at least there was some degree of difference between the talent, but these feel very, very similar.
I like Shotzi Blackheart, man. I liked her coming to the ring in that little tank as well. That was good. I think there is a bit of homogeny with them, but I don't know if that's their deal as well.
I think that's more of a kind of indie thing in general, and NXT have really kind of based an influence from the indies. AEW as well, I kind of feel there's not a lot of real scope between like people's characters. Everybody's, for the most part, playing that I'm a tough guy. And when you contrast that to what you've been watching for 95 specifically, when they're really so opposite ends of the spectrum, colourful characters, it can look kind of homogenised at first, but again, you're watching the pay-per-view as well when a lot of these guys aren't given a chance to put their characters across. They would do in the week-to-week programming, the promos and interviews and stuff.
I think it's also important to mention, because there's no context for Lewis at all, this is a developmental program. Yeah. So you're seeing a lot of characters that haven't actually evolved past Hunter or another agency, and this is going to be your character. So they've not actually had a lot of time to evolve. This is an opening match made to to sort of like awaken your senses kind of thing. That's why they're given no real walk-in time, no real time to actually show off their character. They're there to show off the work and get you excited for the rest of the pay-per-view. And I think they've done that great. Other than Blackheart, it was all, I mean, even their music was very developmental, B-sides.
I really like getting into the themes later on.
But I just feel like, because I'm not very much of the opinion as Ollie, where this isn't a highlight, this match for me, but as someone that can respect promoter booking, I think it hits the nail right on the head. It gets you excited for the rest of the card. It's not a drag like we've seen with all these other damn in your house cards. It gets you. It's spot after spot. I maybe could have seen a wee bit more selling, especially from Blackheart. Actually, there was a lot of like they're that green where they're not even selling things in the face or anything kind of thing. A lot of stuff that I'm used to seeing on the indies, but yeah, I thought it was exciting. But you just need to keep in mind that these people haven't actually had time to make a character yet. Almost.
Yeah, it's a hot opener basically.
Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, echoing Cammy's spots, it's a hot opener, it's fast, it's action-packed, it's not supposed to be a classic 30-minute wrestling match, it's just there to get your pulse going.
Yeah, I think that's what I said. I'm very much in danger of marking out over the quote-unquote the current product, because, yeah, of all the opening matches we've watched over the last 7 or 8 weeks, this really, really got my pulse going, this really got me ready. And it was really exciting. There were some good spots in it. It had a good tempo to it. And usually I don't like matches where there's even more than 2 people in them, to be honest. But this, it felt like they doled out each other's roles properly as well. So yeah, that's why I said I'm in danger of marking out, because of all the opening matches I've watched, this is one where I was actually like, fuck yeah, I'm watching wrestling.
I have to be really honest. I didn't enjoy it as much as I thought I was going to do. I know Cameron's got a big smile on his face. He knows I'm just going to progressively get more and more fed up with this pay-per-view as we go on. The first red flag for me was before they even locked up, we got a "This is awesome" chant, and I knew I was like, this is going to be a real kind of mark match. 12 minutes in, we get the 450 splash, and I knew it was only a matter of time before this pay-per-view, before we got the 610-degree flips and the kicks and the. I mean, again, maybe it's a difference because I haven't watched it timeline-wise in 10 years. Like, obviously, I went back and I've watched the old In Your Houses, but I haven't seen anything from 2010 to 2020, and the entire style feels very, very different now than I did then. There's some really, really stiff shots. There's the Bronco Buster thing they do, but it's like they try to jump up and then put their ass in the face of whoever they've got in the turnbuckle and that, which looks really, really rough. Again, there's this really, really impressive shoulder-looking block by Raquel Gonzalez that immediately gets no-sold. And I've noticed that consistently as we'll go on now, this the lack of selling, or lack of really, really kind of rolling about Kurt Hennig style selling. I know maybe that looks outdated now, but it was a little thing that I was like, I really could have done with more of this.
Think I'd give them the benefit of the doubt because it is the developmental C show.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what I took with it as case, because obviously you've got people like Finn Balor and Charlotte Flair. I don't know how far along the rest of them are, but yeah, I did give them the benefit of that because obviously they're going to be quite green. I'm not expecting Brett versus Austin.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I think maybe there was a bit of leniency.
I think there was some. I mean, I feel like all I need to do is go back into my Google Docs and compare the notes between these pay-per-views you're referencing that we've already watched and this one. I mean, there was great work, but from a criticism point of view, there's not enough selling. But for context, although the women division. There's 2 different women divisions you could say. There's kind of like the A show and NXT basically. They're both kind of weak. They've got their stars, but they always struggle to like anything bulk up the roster. And at this point, you're really looking at a group of women who haven't been given the chance to get to work and gain the experience to hit the beats that you're talking about kind of thing. And for what little experience they do, I was really impressed.
Well, again, it's like it's the contrasting styles. Everything at one point feels very, very super stiff, and then there's one point towards the end of the match where Tegan Knox goes for these body shots, and it's like the kind of rock'em sock'em robots rat-a-tat-tat. Like, it felt very, very plasticky.
It's very important probably for context throughout the show that me and Lewis have already had a conversation where he's mentioned how little he enjoys the influence of strong style has on the modern product.
I'd never go into a pay-per-view wanting to hate it. I would never go into anything this intensely dislike it, but I feel as this pay-per-view goes on, my spirit is going to crumble.
That's fine, but it's important just to mention it's not Lewis's cup of tea, just to make him seem like a nicer guy as this goes on.
Thank you, Cammy.
I do as well find it mad that I'm watching this, and obviously, we're watching wrestling, we understand it, but I'm like, shit, they're punching each other. They're going to hurt one another.
There's some real, like Van Hansen tier stuff in this.
Watching the stiff shots, it's like, no, you're hitting us, stop hitting us.
Well, it's pro wrestling, it's not ballet.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, come on.
There's one little note I'd like to make before we discuss the finish, but there's I think, is it Mia Yim does the suicide dive through the second rope and then lands into the crowd on them outside. For some reason, like that, the way it was shot, camera wise, really jarred on me. Well, usually when you watch the old '97 ones or anything from the noughties, they always shoot the suicide dive from behind, so that you see them coming out towards the ring, and then the camera can like pan in on them as they're all scattered on the floor. This one was shot side on, and it just didn't have that same umph. It was just like a little frog leap outside of the ring, and it felt very, very minimal. Whereas I think had they shot it from behind, the people that were actually taking the suicide dive, it would have had a much bigger impact. But again, that's a little thing.
There's a lot of experiments going on in this pay-per-view with camera work, though, and it's purely just because that they're not using the hard camera at the moment, so they're compensating and trying different things, just because, again, the lack of crowd. Because I agree with you, there's a couple of moments where I just felt like it could have been shot a bit better, but I could appreciate they're just trying something different.
Well, I can't wait till we get into the GoPro shot during the Keith Lee Johnny Gargano match, but later on.
We will get into it.
Yeah. It's over. Knox gets the win. I mean, I'm going to go 2.5 out of 5. I've originally raised it from my original rating of 2 out of 5. I have to say it's the first new match I've seen in 10 years, and I've noticed with a lot of the female talent, not to sound problematic here or anything, but there's very little variety. I don't mean in terms of race, I just mean like in size. Like all these women, they all look the same height, they all look the same weight, they all had, the only thing really differentiating them was the hair colours. I thought, but I want to get your guys' opinion, because again, it might be a time thing.
I think, again, give them the benefit of the doubt that, like Cammy said, that they're all green. I think maybe in, 6-7 months' time, you might see the same 6 wrestlers, and they've all got different personalities and different personas. It might just be a case of you're the first match on the card, you're still learning your craft. Hunter's turned round and said, right, you're all grunge badasses, but knowing the fucking WWE and how Vince McMahon's haunted circus ride of a brain works, I'd say in 6 months you'll get a lot of variety. Again, it's like the cruiserweight division. They were all roughly the same size, but there was a real breadth in the personality and characteristics of them as well.
Yeah, you can say that about some of the men in the NXT as well. You can Adam Cole, Roderick Strong, Johnny Gargano. They're all very similar size and builds. Obviously, you've got your Keith Lees in that as well, but you've got Finn Balor. A lot of these kind of guys, for the kind of style they're coming from, that kind of independent background, tend to be of a certain size compared to your quote-unquote Vince size.
I just feel it's important. I mean, again, we're not talking about it now, but a great example is just contrast the characters you have in this first match versus the main event. There was plenty of character in the main event, not so much here. It's a developmental match used to kind of get you going, and for that reason, I'd done a 3 out of 5, and it's my bias towards. I've got the same as Oliver, where I'm not a big fan of matches with more than 2 people in it. I think this was booked to perfection, but almost too well, where I was like, okay, so when are we getting out the ring to give people alone time so we can actually get a pin and blah blah blah. But it was really good, done the exact job it was meant to. And I'm trying my best not to be biased because there's a heck of a lot of bias. I'll be the opposite to Lewis's.
You'll be the pro NXT guy and I'll be the anti.
Yeah, sure.
And we'll be like the little angel and the devil on each shoulder.
Of course.
Yeah. Immediately after this, we go into the Superstar Cookie sandwich spot. And I thought it was very interesting that in the space of 15 minutes, you go from a full grunge rock concert to the kind of 80s merchandise peddling. You talk about whiplash. I mean, that did not fit. But I know they had to get the ads in, but this was very, very out of place.
I mean, I felt better about this than, say, the Karate Fighters or
No.
or everything else, because, you know, I can't buy MB Karate Fighters. I can't buy an NXT Lumberjacks t-shirt. NXT In Your House Lumberjacks t-shirt. I can go out and buy a good humour WWE Superstar cookie sandwich with Macho Man on it.
I missed the blimp. I'm not going to lie to you. I missed the blimp.
I got
We'll
really.
get to that.
We do get the bump later, well, and another thing.
I got really excited when I saw the blimp.
One thing that's kind of important to mention is I didn't know, because every other advert in this is a joke.
Yes.
Kind of thing. Even when they bring up their actual merch, it's a joke. So when they brought up the sandwiches, I went, "Is that a reference?" I'm not.
Yeah, I thought it was a bit as well, but as time went on, it's like, oh no, they're just trying to sell me an ice cream sandwich.
They look delicious, to be fair.
They did look good.
Yeah.
Just I did see it, and I was like, fuck it, I want one of those now.
Yeah, like in the early 90s with the big plush wrestling buddy, like Hulk Hogan and Ultimate Warrior and that. I thought like maybe they would have pawned one of those new ones off. But no, immediately after this, we go into Rhea Ripley preparing for her match. I'm just going to refer to her as Peaky Blinders for the rest of the pay-per-view review, because she's just got the Arthur Shelby haircut down to a T. She feels very, very indie darling looking. If that makes sense. Like, I don't.
She is, but I love Rhea Ripley. I think she's a fantastic character and wrestler. I can't remember seeing a bad match with her. Again, though, she comes under that kind of bracket of tough guy persona, which we've seen with Shayna Baszler, we've seen with Becky Lynch. There is this current trend in wrestling that everybody wants to be that kind of tough guy babyface, in a way, that Austin Till character, but I do like her.
Yeah, I'd never really heard of Rhea Ripley before this, but yeah, obviously, and I'm not too versed on the indies, so for me, as your country rube Mark, she looks the part for me.
I think actually, believe it or not, I don't like the term indie darling, for one, but she did kind of, I did just look at her and go, oh, okay, cool. Like, you know, once I started to see her go, it totally changed it for me. But, that gimmick's not gonna, we're in a world where she might not want to transition to the A show, but she won't get on the A show if that gimmick has been done and there's too many of it, kind of thing. I'd rather see something else.
I mean, she was the first ever NXT UK Women's Champion, and Lewis, if you think NXT is a kind of rougher, strong style, independent version of WWE, you've seen nothing until you see NXT UK.
It's the best.
I'll have to take your word for that. Right, so after this, we go into Finn Balor versus Damian Priest. The opening package, again, every match in this card, every match in this thing gets an opening package. It's bizarre. Finn talks about attacking the man to become the man. Woo, borrowed from Ric Flair. Is Damian Priest an established star? Because again, I'm unfamiliar with.
Not really. He's relatively new in the grand scheme of things when it comes to NXT. He's had a few kind of high-profile matches. I've not really taken to him too much, but I did really enjoy this match. This is actually arguably my best match of the night, to be fair. I absolutely love this.
Well, that'll be.
With the promos, by this point, I was already sick of, is it It's not Agent Orange. God, Code Orange.
Code
Yeah.
Orange.
Yeah, I was already sick of them by this point. The fact they used it in the promo was worse, and not only that, I don't think it done anything to, because I've not actually kept up with the current storylines. So I was excited to get a refresher. Like, okay, how am I meant to feel right now? And at no point did I get that from that promo. So I was just like, well, I'm just gonna go with Finn Balor then, kind of thing. And then when that was reinforced when Damian Priest came out. Again, it's a developmental show. This is built to put him over and just get him to be more familiar, and it worked. I enjoyed the match, but I was still a Finn Balor guy by the end of it.
Yeah, I like Finn Balor. Again, I'm not versed on the quote unquote modern product and who the big guys are, but I'm still in touch with it. And yeah, Finn Balor is someone that I rate.
Anyone that does the self rock bottom move as a signature move thing, I don't know what he called it, but I'm just not into that at all. When you contrast that with Finn Balor doing legitimate wrestling takedowns, I was way over in the Balor camp in this match.
Yeah, and the thing with Balor as well, I mean, that guy just strips absolute charisma, and he walks out to a virtually empty arena with an entrance that's tailor-made for a crowd.
Yeah.
And I was still popping.
Well, see,
watching it.
Yeah. Now, this is the interesting thing, because Priest's gimmick kind of reminds me of a fella that we meet later on.
Cyrus.
Yeah.
Except
no, that cross guy. Sorry, yeah.
I think that's Cyrus.
In the Ciampa match, they're both the exact same, but I just feel like Cross nails it better. The one thing that it felt like both of their entrances were really overproduced, but then you'd get the vet come in and there's no production at all, and they just sell it with a walk and a look, and you can instantly see the difference in experience. I made a note saying that who's the female commentator in this event? Yeah, she done a really good job. It's just a shame she's next to Mauro Ranallo, who's.
Oh yeah, we'll get on it. His
But she. All right, okay. Well, that's different. That's fine. She compared Damian Priest. She didn't compare it, but she used a Brandon Lee quote, "The Crow." Just compared the two, and I just couldn't help but feel like, yeah, I'm getting more of a sequel vibe from this guy, kind of thing. It's
this is Edward Furlong.
Next style. Yeah, I was going to say the Crow's actually fertile ground. I mean, maybe consider painting his face black and white. I mean, it's not like anybody's ever done that before. Eh?
Never, no.
Yeah.
Not successfully.
As much as I like to rag on the entrance themes, Damian Priest's music is actually so good it earned itself an extra star. Like, I knew we were off to a good start with him. He has star potential, I feel. And again, I didn't get that feeling a whole lot from a lot of the new guys, but Damian Priest definitely has the it factor if it's utilised properly. Getting into the crowd, I couldn't tell throughout this match who was supposed to be the heel and who was supposed to be the face, because they both cheered, they both got booed. It was a really inconsistent back and forth with who I'm supposed to be rooting for. Again, you having no background in this, I didn't know who I was supposed to be vilifying or glorifying.
The promo didn't help, and then Balor actually started the match by Pearl Harbor and Priest. Like he start which is a heel move. I don't know if I was supposed to interpret the. I felt like Priest was doing big man moves. Do you know what I mean? Like he was grabbing Balor's chin and picking him up and stuff, and I went, but he's the same height, and I don't even think Balor's that tall. Like I couldn't get my head around that kind of booking, why he was leaning towards that, other than the fact that maybe that's what he think a heel is, kind of thing. Maybe he went to the Andre the Giant school of heel work, kind of thing, as opposed to anything else.
Well, again, the commentator's spot didn't really help as well with Mauro. He started talking about Finn Balor's love of American football. And I thought, are you doing that to try and get the people behind Finn, or what? Like, what has this been done? Why are you doing this? Again, it's meaningless commentary.
Yes. It felt like I was at a fucking Trump rally, just being like, yeah, he's good. He likes American football. I'm like,
That was an old GR thing, though. Remember when GR was always talking about American sports references and that, and he would say, "Oh, Bradshaw." We'll talk about that later on, but Bradshaw was a all-star quarterback at East College and stuff like that. 'Cause I remember not to go off on a tangent, but when GR first started in WWE, WWF, sorry, there was a lot of wrestlers, The Undertaker included, that was concerned it was going to start bringing up too much of their past and destroy the mystique of the character. Like, who wants to know The Undertaker was playing basketball at school in 1993?
To be fair, I think in Jim Ross's eyes, like, everybody used to be a National Collegiate All-American. It didn't matter if it was even the enhancement talent like Barry Horowitz or Gilbert or that. Like, they were all former.
I am so with that JR gimmick.
Yes.
Like, I just think it's great. And I'm a big Mauro Ranallo fan, so I can't remember this line, or I wasn't listening at this point clearly, but the only argument I could think of, it would be interesting to see when he did bring that up. If it was during a quiet moment and he was just wanting to give a bit more background to a character, then I'm all for that. If it was in the middle of a spot, then yeah, I totally agree with you. But if nothing was going on, then I don't see a problem with that. If it means it's getting someone over, all right, it's not like someone's got a collegiate wrestling, background and we're talking about that, but
I think the fact JL was like nakedly pro college sports as well. It informed his personality. I mean, I can't remember a classic JR line, but it was always about Oklahoma Sooners and everything.
Well,
just
Ronaldo,
saying that he likes American football feels like you're doing the French lesson.
Ronaldo is the most qualified commentator the WWE's ever had. He commentated with Pride FC. All right, that's why I'm wearing the shirt. He commentated for them for years and years and years. And let's remember, they were dodgy as anything. They had pro wrestlers fighting MMA guys. He's a Showtime boxing commentator. I think he makes the show more exciting. Albeit, I feel like going back now and listening to what he was saying during this match, and maybe I will be a bit disappointed, but I get major JR vibes from the guy, just maybe a bit more animated, and I don't think there's a problem with that.
Yeah, a millennial JR.
Yeah, ADHD JR.
There's one little thing I noticed during this match. I felt like such a fucking idiot afterwards, but I thought there was actually two sets of guardrails at one point. And I was like, why the fuck have they got two sets of guardrails in front of one another? And then I realised that it was actually the reflection in the plexiglass.
Yeah.
I smacked my damn head. There's a bit in the match where they start no-selling kicks to the face. They're just flipping no-selling big boots to the face. And again, that was going back to a little conversation, Cammy. Selling is key.
It's a different era now, Lewis, okay? People watch MMA now and they know that you don't get knocked out to a frickin' kick to the face, okay?
If an MMA fighter kicked you in the face, you would sell.
You wouldn't... Cool.
He was prized.
It depends who's going for me. Because calling back to the tag match that opened this, I saw Gonzalez no selling, and I enjoyed that because she seemed a lot bigger and a lot tougher than a lot of the competition as well. But
I sincerely believe it's a response to the fact that there's a lot more combat sports now, and people just know that some of the things that happen are so unrealistic, it takes people out of the action. I think they're just evolving with what is going on in the zeitgeist and responding to it, and I don't find a problem with that.
Yeah, a lot of these guys as well kind of like learned their trade in Japan or became really like famous and made their name in Japanese wrestling, but it is a totally different style. It is really that kind of strong style, and they love that out there. It's only kind of makes sense. I mean, Finn Balor was massive in Japan, created the Bullet Club. Comes over here, he's going to bring that influence over.
It was one of the biggest wrestling storylines of the decade kind of thing, and it resonated throughout the independent scene, which now is a massive part of what WWE do, and especially NXT. What did you guys think of the backdrop to the steps?
That looked so...
It was a super effective little 10 out of 10 spot. Not a huge bump when you actually do the replay, but it looked painful as
fuck. What I'm saying is that with us being in this sort of water where things are taking a bit more of it has to look more realistic. I feel that bump had more. It was a bigger bump than it would have been 10 years ago, is what I'm saying, because we're being trained to think like this, that yeah. Sorry, I'm losing my train of thought.
But yeah, I can see where you're going, because like back then, being dropped onto the ring steps as well, it just felt like they were made of jelly.
Yeah.
Or something. Yeah, calling back. Yeah, when they're like hitting each other stiff and like no selling the things that usually you would sell. It's like, yeah, they're actually fighting.
Yeah.
And it's a lot more believable, despite the fact that there is just now a raft of information where you can quickly find out that it's all smoke and mirrors.
But I think they're doing a good job in kind of bringing the believability back to it, to be honest with you. They realise that you can't get over with some of these spots that you're seeing on the A show. And that's why I think I'm bringing up the self-rock bottom. I sincerely believe that Damian Priest will get feedback where he won't be using that move for much longer, because they're like, look, you're doing a strong style match here. You're selling this. You're not selling this. How the heck is anyone going to believe that actually was a proper bump there, kind of thing? I like the way it's going personally. Yeah, professional wrestlers have a hard go of it, but that's more to do with their schedule than what they're doing on a night-to-night basis. If you look at what people do on a night-to-night basis, again, you've got pro fighters in there who are shortening their lives by years, not minutes. I'm not, when I see someone getting a kick to the face, or when you're saying, oh, someone took a bump in the corner, I'm like, well, they're not having a pillow fight. You know what I mean?
No.
And it's them that are choosing to do this.
And the thing as well is, you see the kind of strong style a lot more in every match now, as opposed to kind of the odd guy.
Yeah.
But it's existed in wrestling for as far back as I can remember. I mean, if you look at how, you take the 70s, for example, and wrestling was stiff. You said yourself, your Stan Hansons and things like that. In the 80s, WWE specifically made it more kind of cartoony. But other promotions were still pretty stiff. And the kind of like late 90s, guys like Benoit came into it. He was stiff. You always had your stiff guys. It's just, I think we're seeing more of it now. But the fact that people are watching it and they're not being desensitized to the stiffness shows that it's still clearly working. It's not being sanitized.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we're going to talk about a Bradshaw match from No Way Out in Texas later on. You know what I mean? Let's. I think it's always happened. It's just not been a big part of the WWE product. I'm 100% with Thomas.
I'll absolutely put my hands up and say maybe it's because I'm so used to one brand or one variation of product that maybe the stiffer stuff looks even stiffer than it really is. Still pretty stiff though.
Which is great though. That works in WWE's favour, in my opinion. Like you've not responded to it well, but in a world where people are losing their attention spans and their love for wrestling, I think that's really important.
Yeah, especially with like the chops, especially like in WWE. It's definitely a big thing in the indie where a wrestler will get the crowd to go silent, then chop somebody, and you just hear that kind of go across the hall, and it really does grab your attention. I remember watching him, I don't go off topic here, but Benoit for WCW, I think it was 1998. I can't remember who fought, but he chopped the guy so hard it was bruised purple during the match. And this was 1998. A time like Hulk Hogan still kicking about, The Undertaker still an undead zombie, and Benoit has legitimately bruised somebody across the chest. It was crazy, but yeah, these guys know that. I don't think they're hurting each other too much.
No, I don't think so.
Adrenaline's gone and things like that as well. It's slap me as hard as you can. It sounds great, but how sore is it really?
I'll get into one little thing just before we discuss the finish. Morrow brings up the Canadian Stampede crowd.
Yes.
Why on earth you would bring up how hot a crowd was in an arena filled with 12 fucking people, I have no idea.
Because he's a mark, he loves the business, and he wanted to get over his favourite pay-per-view, the same as you would have in the same situation, Lewis.
I like to mention it, to be fair, because it's the first in your house in over 20 years, and it's the first ever NXT in your house, and the fact that it would mention arguably the greatest ever in your house, it makes,
It could be his only chance to do it. You don't know if they're going to do this again.
No, and the fact if you're watching that, for example, I mean, Canadian Stampede was 1997. A lot of people watched today's product might never have seen that, might now go look it up on the network.
$9.99.
Yeah, without being too cynical, it's probably just really good marketing.
This is because we watched it all those weeks ago, isn't it?
I didn't.
Baylor gets the win, 3 out of 5. You know, I feel like I've sounded negative. I did actually like the match. It's a stripped down, little, minimal, no frills affair. The stuff looks hard because it is. But yeah, I did like it for what it was. As you know, symbolic of what today's product is, as far as that goes, I did like it. What did you make of it?
I'll get a 4.
Yeah, I was enthused, but I'll give it 3.5. I was enthused by it, but not.
I'm sorry, I really enjoyed Lewis's reaction to the 4 there.
Silently crushed.
I'm doing a lot of if I was in the room at the moment, because I really miss live shows, to be honest with you. And if I was in the room, this would be a 4, up from a 3.5, because a finisher finished the damn match. And that, that is worth mentioning.
63 false finishes.
There was a lot of that tonight, and I think that was the first. I can't remember the finish of the last match now, and if that was a finisher, I don't know them enough, but I was so happy to see that. So that takes it from a 3.5 to a 4 to me.
Basically, whenever I try to ask what's the background of this, I need you to pretend I've spent the last 10 years in a coma. Just basically fill me in on what's happened. Right.
You poor boy.
Thank you. Right, Keith Lee versus Johnny Gargano. First thing I point out here. Right, so you've got the massive linebacker Teddy Bear as the babyface, and the man who looks like he weighs 9 stone as the heel in the white leather jacket. There's not a very compelling dynamic here going in there, is this? Because Gargano is, again, I don't know what his wrestling ability previous to this, but he does not strike me as a very imposing heel.
The problem with Gargano here, sorry, that's why I get out of the way quickly. The problem with Gargano here is he's a bit too flip-flop of his character, and he was a really good face. He had a big, massive feud with Tommaso Ciampa, which is one of the greatest feuds I've seen in the last 10 years. And then they wanted to make Gargano the heel, but Ciampa got injured, so they turned him face again, and they're looking at turning him heel again, and he's been a bit too inconsistent with his character. As a wrestler, he's incredible, but it doesn't really suit a heel here when he's fighting such an absolute monster babyface in Keith Lee.
Yeah, for one, by the way, we missed out pointing out there was a damn ICOPRO commercial. You need to get that over. Important. But it's important to mention that Ciampa and Gargano had maybe one of the best feuds that the Fed has had in the past 10, 15 years. And just as doubly important to mention how much they kind of mucked up towards the end. It lasted too long. They were trying to flip-flop who was facing heel, and it kind of left the both of them a bit worse off in the end, because Gargano's now... I think he's a great heel, to be honest. The booking doesn't make sense from a match point of view, but I think he played his part really well. And I think for the weird situation they booked himself into, I think they done so well. And if anything, I actually think it elevated the match, because I'm not used to seeing it. And that was because I literally sat at the start of the match going, how are they going to do this convincingly? And other than the fact that some of the finger stuff went a little bit too long, and also it's someone else's gimmick at this point. It's that fella, the Bruiserweight's gimmick right now. Yeah, Pete Dunne. That's his gimmick for now, and he's kind of very hot. Well, he was. That went on a bit long, but I thought they'd done super well, and I was actually really happy to see something a bit different.
Getting into Keith Lee, I really like Keith Lee's entire presentation. Anybody with a dad bod physique in today's product, I immediately am rooting for, just out of spite. He doesn't have a six-pack. I like that. I like that his title actually looks like a title. The mid-card NXT title seems to actually look more prestigious than the World NXT title, which we'll get later on too. The immediate the working the fingers Usually with the kind of the small man versus the giant story, it's always immediately you work the ankles and you work the knees. So you get the big man towering down to your height, and then it's a ground game from there on out. But yeah, the finger working just went a bit too long. Can we discuss the GoPro shot and the doorbell, because that looked absolutely horrendous. That looked like a PS1.
Yeah, that was
atrocious.
That was not a highlight for me.
Obviously, it took me out. It took me out of the match.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind a bit of comedy. I don't mind a bit of gaga type thing. It just took me out of the match a wee bit.
I think the promo at the start of the match, there was a bit of humour in it. Gargano walking up to a picture of Michael Hayes, acknowledging it, blah, 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 strutting out the house. It set the tone nicely, kind of thing. Like, because we've not got a monster heel, and he is a bad guy, but I just think it worked well. It was really, I found it really humorous to have him banging on the door and you just see this big silhouette just sort of, I found it entertaining. And at the end of the day, that's why we're here, is to be entertained. Quality-wise, it was a bit jarring, but it was, it's obviously meant to be like a Ring doorbell or something like that.
I was actually disappointed with this match overall. I'm a big fan of both guys. I was really looking forward to this, thinking it would be the match of the night. So I had a lot of high expectation on it, and I just felt it was too long. It just dragged on for me a wee bit.
I think the plexiglass spot was so good that I was actually willing to deal with the extended runtime. The bit where Gargano got pushed into the plexiglass that was an ingenious spot. As far as actually using COVID to your advantage, that's a miraculous little piece of storytelling there.
It had to happen, didn't it?
It's more of a spot.
See, I've seen quite a lot of these guys and a lot of Keith Lee. I'm a massive fan of him, but this guy can move like a cruiserweight at times for his size. It's incredible. But Ollie, what's your thoughts on somebody that's not been watching the current product and seeing these two guys for the first time?
I mean, to be honest, yeah, I'm a big Keith Lee fan because I'm looking at a guy with a big dad bod. And I was going to make a joke about how it's nice to see someone who looks like myself, but at the same time, yeah, I really liked him. He's a big guy, but he's got agility. He's quite nimble. He's not parceled in as a big slow moving monster as we've seen turn it back. Gargano, yeah, I like him. I don't really like the character, but I liked him as well. It was a good match, and the whole way through I said, yeah, I'm in danger of marking out because I've just completely switched off the modern product. And I'm watching matches like these, and it's reminding me why I used to love watching Raw, SmackDown, ECW, Heat. What was the other one?
Velocity,
that was it.
Green SmackDown. I was trying to find that on the network.
Shotgun.
There's nothing there.
You wouldn't put it on the network. You would pretend it didn't happen.
They have some pretty out there stuff on the network.
I was about to say every week it was just Charlie Haas versus William Regal.
And your problem is?
No problem at all. In fact, yeah, this is why the pay-per-view loses marks for me, because there was no William Regal.
Mm-hmm.
He was in a promo. He was
there in spirit.
Yeah, we'll get to that. But I just want...
As a fun aside to that, me and William Regal are from the exact same village outside Wolverhampton.
There you go. Make sure
So
it's
he's
hard
not
as
from
well.
Blackpool?
Regal.
He's not from fucking Blackpool.
Gutted. I just
the Americans seem to think that all of the UK is just London, and despite the fact that he's from Blackpool, which is traditionally more of a working man's town in the UK, like he was always saddled with the tea sipping, 3-piece suit wearing gimmick. It's like how Vince McMahon thinks of the UK, whereas everywhere is just Buckingham Palace.
I kind of thought it was because of how prestigious that Blackpool was as a wrestling town. Because you need to remember how over he was in the British wrestling. Yeah. I always thought it was that, because you need to remember he was in WCW first, wasn't he? At which point he was put over with him and Fit Finlay, which we'll get back to in a second.
Talk about stuff.
Finlay.
Yeah, they were both put over as the strong style of their time British wrestlers, and Blackpool was kind of a good. That's why NXT UK went back there. That's why my impression was. As far as this match goes, I can definitely point out it's too long, but the reason I know this is because I made a heck of a lot of notes, loads of notes, and just reading them out, there's so much good stuff in there, but it's almost like there's too much. Like, by the time this finishes, you're kind of worn out, sort of thing. And I think that it's such a shame because, yeah, it was great. There was an armbar into a bicep curl. Gargano struggling to get Keith Lee back into the ring to stop a count out. That's brilliant. I thought that was great. I loved that. The plexiglass loads, but especially that middle point where he just kept cheating because they were just trying to get over so hard. This is why this is an even match.
It did feel like a competition. It felt like two guys trying to win the match as opposed to just getting in there to put on a show.
Which I think they done in both. I think they ticked both boxes personally. I really enjoyed this match.
I feel like if they were ever going to put the belt on Gargano, which knowing, again, I don't know what titles he's held before this, if they're going to put the TV title on them or whatever this mid-card belt seems to be. Having the spot with the car key, that would have been an excellent opportunity to put the strap on Gargano because you've already had a run-in big schmoz finish or that. Like, if you wanted to cheat them and have the heel go over as small as he is, that would have been a prime opportunity. But again, Lee does go over, he gets the win. I'm going to give this 3.5 out of 5. Extra credit for the glass belt. And an extra star, obviously, because of Lee's trunks. Just a little bit too long was what stopped it from going into 4 and 5. I think.
Yeah, I'm the same.
4 cornets out of 5. I was over the moon with this. I am still buzzing. I'm going to go back and watch it. We're about to record 2 podcasts back to back, and I'm still going to go and watch this match again. I'm not going to be. I really enjoyed this, and I think it was maybe because it was that little bit different, and they just pulled it off so well.
Cammy, don't expose the business like that.
We're going all Jim Cornette on us now, are you, Thomas?
I'm going to change my T-shirt between podcasts.
I think, to extend on what Cammy said, out of all the pay-per-views we've watched so far, this is the one I'm going to go back and watch again.
Yeah, 100%. What was your kind of rating out of 5 for the? I don't think, did you give one, Ollie?
Oh, Lewis said 3.5, and I said I'd go along with that.
Yeah, cool, no bother.
So after this, we get Adam Cole versus Velveteen Dream.
Maybe.
Why is everybody on this show besides Keith Lee so small? Like, I don't know, it's, again, an exposure to 97, 98 shows, but Adam Cole, his arms are like twiglets. He's so big.
I find it interesting as well that there's a guy like Triple H who's always been a body guy, well, not always been a body guy, but for his biggest run was a body guy, is the guy that's
smaller, more agile, kind of cruiserweight style.
I think that's why you get the leaning again to strong style though, because the only convincing way these guys can win a wrestling match is by kind of throwing almost shoot like potatoes at people, kind of thing.
Yeah, no one's buying a pump handle slam off Adam Cole, are they?
No, exactly.
I love Adam Cole.
Ollie, you mentioned William Regal isn't in this pay-per-view. He is in the package for this match via Skype. He plays the commissioner role via Skype and basically tells
I don't care. I do not fucking care. If they mention William Regal at a WWE pay-per-view, I want to see him in red trunks hitting someone with the brass knucks.
Drinking Jericho's piss.
Yes.
It's important to mention because the pay-per-view doesn't, that the only reason why Regal picked a backlot fight was because his was so infamous with Fit Finlay. I'm pretty certain there's no mention of that or getting over, because the two characters that are actually in the match, it doesn't make any sense for them to be in this other than the fact that they wanted to kind of do something different like they have with Taker's match at Mania, etc.
Yeah, I feel like that was my next point. I feel like we should get in it. This is a movie match. It's yet another movie match for the third pay-per-view in a row.
Is the best time for a movie match not perfect to come just after the match where we're all knackered because we've just watched like a match that was, by all of our opinions, too long. So I welcomed something different at this point.
But again, in that same sense, so you can't have a realistic movie match, though, really, though, can you? Because, I mean, on the scale of, like, this is a 1 and Sting and Vader fighting inside a volcano is a 10. this feels far more stripped down than that, obviously. But yeah,
What I did like about this is you could see the cameras and the lighting. They weren't trying to hide it like they did obviously with the Boneyard match and that. They weren't hiding the fact that this was being filmed.
But I
Which
would
did add that wee bit of realism.
I would go a step further than that and get them to do like a Paul Thomas Anderson moment. I want it all in one shot, like back in the day. I don't want. There was a couple of cuts in this that were super jarring.
Yeah.
And like you could kind of tell, like, right, maybe they've taken a few attempts to do that drop or something like that. And I would rather it was back in the 90s and we had the empty arena match where it's all one shot all the way through the arena. I'd have been far more impressed with that, because there's a few moments where they do it does happen like that, but then all of a sudden it cuts again, and I didn't enjoy that part of it, but I was pleasantly surprised by how much I did actually enjoy this, believe it or not.
I just kind of felt that you could have did this match stipulation the exact same way in the back lot, have the cars and that, have all the kind of gimmicks without it being a movie match. It could have just been a more straight production-wise match. It's still done it the same way, like the Hollywood Backlot Brawl, Goldust and Roddy Piper.
Yeah.
It had some kind of questionable editing.
They should have still cut to the OJ chase.
Yeah.
That's it.
But before that, you just had to do them fighting.
Match where the Uber spot comes up.
It's
going to hire an Uber, and I thought it was going to be like Mania 17 when Kane got in the golf buggy, and there was going to be like the chase around that small kind of. It looks like it was actually shot on like the Warner Brothers backlot or something. Like no one seems to live in this place where they're filming. All the lights are off. It's like a ghost town. It's like Wild West.
It's weird.
Why is Velveteen Dream dressed as Negan from The Walking Dead? Like, is his character supposed to be a nutcase or something?
His character is very referential. Obviously, he's playing Prince incarnate, Lewis. So,
yeah,
I mean...
He's also came to the ring basically dressed like Hollywood Hogan before.
Rick Rude as well.
Yeah.
And by the way, it sounds bad, but I love the guy. He's really good at it, and it's all him. And the same for Adam Cole as well. I feel like if you had more context, mate, I don't know how you did feel about this match, but I feel like it was so important that it was those two individuals in this match because they're so entertaining.
It was an unintentional, hilarious match.
Right.
I loved it for the wrong reasons.
Okay.
If that makes sense. You've also got the massive plot hole with the movie matches of where is the music coming from? Because Velveteen Dream's driving to the ring in a Lamborghini of some variety. I just assumed that he's blasting his entrance music out of the car stereo like a total G. But yeah, again, the whole just the fact that it's shot on the backlot and there's no effort to really make this convincingly look like a filled town. I'm not expecting it to be shot like a kind of Jean-Luc Godard, like you can actually hear them yelling action in the background and all these kind of things like that. But just there could have been a little bit more background dressing, kind of production design notes that would have.
I don't know. It looked I mean, it didn't look convincing, but it looked goddamn expensive. 10 out of 10 for effort for like. It got built for that. They're in Florida. They're not in. Oh wait.
They're in an empty part of Florida though.
Yeah, but it still costs money. Like they at least put some effort into it. I just looked back at my notes and then realised this was a championship match, by the way. So this immediately takes it down to like 1 star.
They could have done it with like little Easter eggs, like in Tarantino films, like with like you know the Red Apple cigarettes and that. You could have had like Mankind's Chef Boyardee ravioli, like in the background. There would have been room for like all these cool little niche things for the fans to look. Oh right, I remember that from that. Like a pay-per-view that's so reliant on in your house nostalgia. It would have been very nice to have little nuggets here and there, like point to things at the. Oh, can we talk about the ending of the match when Raoul Moat emerges from underneath a jeep?
See, I have seen very little of this guy.
To be a friend of Dexter.
Dexter Lumis.
I've seen very little of this guy, but what I have seen, I absolutely adore. The guy is just naturally creepy. And I was watching one of the NXT shows, and it was I think it was maybe Bobby Fish had, and he's just kind of lying unconscious on him, and he's holding him like a headlock, staring at the camera, and just stroking his heads. The guy's just a really weird concoction. He's like a G.I. Joe character.
It's how slowly that chair went under the ring. I would have had the exact same reaction as everyone there who were like, oh, no, hold on the new what? Like, it was as if they were taken aback by how far this went, and I loved it.
I think that was a rare high point for me in this match because there was a lot of substance to it. The set design was really really good, but the editing of it just made me think of Bohemian Rhapsody. I think if you had just honestly shot it like you were shooting it in the arena and you did it in the fucking parking lot of a Wendy's or something, I'd have enjoyed it a bit more. But it's like, you're in like a fake town that like fucking SAS soldiers would have shot up, and you just cut in from shot to shot, and it's like, I like Velveteen Dream. I just didn't like this match.
Yeah. I was a bit disappointed with this match myself. If I checked back, I was watching it again earlier actually, thinking maybe I kind of missed something, try to get the benefit of the doubt. And I was surprised when I actually looked at the timestamp on it, how short it was compared to how long I thought it was. And I really like both guys in it, but yeah, I'm with you all that. They're just rather I've seen them do an actual wrestling match, even with the same kind of idea. Have it in the back lot, have it in the ring, have all the kind of no holds barred element to it, but just don't film it like a cinematic match. Just have a match.
It's like that shot from Taken 3 when it's like Liam Neeson jumping over the fence and it's shot from 17 different angles.
Yeah,
it felt a lot like that. Again, it's mostly brawling. Like, it's mostly kind of the easy stuff. I mean, you've got the gimmicks, Chrysler and all that, and it didn't feel like a world title tier match.
No.
By any stretch of the imagination.
And that's even where I have a problem with it, is the fact that you're sullying the rare situation with NXT is their belts do actually kind of mean something, and you're kind of taking it away from it if you're having this as a championship match. But I think for the situation and what they done, and I think what you're making me realise actually is what could have been. Like, we've got a very referential evening. This is where they could have went all ham. I mean, even if it wouldn't have matched within your house, they could have done something really stupid, like recreate the Stone Cold versus Booker T match in the supermarket beat for beat or something, and that probably would have went over more, or just, I don't know, something like that. I really find the cuts jarring. If it was shot like a 90s empty arena match, I'd have probably have enjoyed it more.
I think they were just trying way too hard with it, to be honest. It looked good, but it just came to absolutely fucking nothing for me. Like, even the spot with the ladder into the windshield, it just, by that point I was that bored. It was just like, oh good, he's throwing him into the fucking windshield, the match is nearly over.
I'll believe it or not, and it's mostly driven off of the circumstances that we're in, and the fact that for where it could have been in the evening, if I was to book this night any differently, it wouldn't change. The fact that it came straight after that long, it's 3 out of 5 for me.
I don't know if I've already said 2 out of 5, but I'm going to say 2 out of 5 again.
Right. 2.5 for me as well. Yeah. I was expecting a lot better.
1.5. I was just it floored me, to be honest.
And I understand like all of that. It's mostly just due to the fact that I really enjoyed the Keith Lee match to the point where I was actually like exhausted. I was exhausted. Well, maybe there was a bit of that, but it was more that sensory wise I was exhausted, and I kind of did need this bit of daftness to get me invested again a wee bit.
So as soon as the main event, main title, let's say that the men's world title is equal to the women's, obviously. After that match ends, we get the t-shirt spot with Todd Pettengill. We get 8 different t-shirts that they're selling, and not one is an actual In Your House t-shirt with the In Your House logo on it. It was at that point I decided, fuck this pay-per-view. My spirit had completely broke.
I was looking specifically for that In Your House t-shirt.
Yeah.
And I would have absolutely called that 900 number.
Yes.
I love the Todd Pettengill stuff, I have to say. I thought it was great. He was great. It was very in-joke with a lot of stuff, which I thought was really good. It was humorous.
Yeah. Underutilized, like I said earlier. I think there could have been more of this throughout the night, just to push the theme a wee bit. But maybe it would have been too much for, I don't know. It's mostly kids that watch and might not get the references and stuff. I guess, like, who's this person?
Yeah, it probably loops back to the conversation we had with like Tyson on AEW.
Yeah,
they could have a load of like on the nose old school spots, but yeah, are you just gonna get a load of fucking 8-year-olds turn into their mum and dad being like, "Who's Mankind?" I like the bit with Triple H and Shawn on the computer as well.
Bizarrely well choreographed slapstick in that segment, by the way.
With Road Dogg bumping into
yeah.
Again, that's why I liked mid 2000s DX.
Absolutely,
because of the slapstick.
It felt more effective, 100%.
And yeah, reading into obviously they still did the naughty sexy bits, but obviously like Triple H get the girls coming over and Triple H be like, Sean, Mr. Fuji's over there, so it wasn't the in-your-face grungy DX I liked. It was the two Ronnies style DX I enjoyed.
Yeah. It was a lot more healthy. After the t-shirt spot ends, we get Tommaso Ciampa versus Karrion Kross. Again, I knew about Tommaso Ciampa prior to this. He's like one of the few faces I knew about from NXT, and I think that's because he has such a distinct look. Like he's one of the few guys now that has a visible wear and tear on him. Like he just looks like a fucking wrestler. Like I know this might sound a bit weird, but I actually get like 1997 era Rick Rude vibes from him. Like he just looks like a fucking man's man. He just looks like he's been around the joint.
It's important for context if, again, someone doesn't watch the modern product, how over Ciampa is. And especially important for context, seeing as I don't feel like this match should have been this high up in the card, other than the fact that Ciampa was in it.
For me, the thing is, Ciampa for me is one of the best heels in the last 10 years in the memory of wrestling. The guy is absolutely incredible. His only problem was the NXT fans just did not want to boo him. This guy was dastardly, he was despicable. His feud with Gargano, the stuff he would do, it was some of the most brutal heel work you'll find. But the crowd are like, yeah, but we like him now. There's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do about that.
I can't say anything because that was me. So,
well, he looks fucking evil.
Yeah.
Like I said through the group chat that looking at this card, I'm scared of everybody.
Yeah.
Compare that to like the Lumberjacks. It was like I could probably kick most of your asses. But yeah, looking at someone like how'd you say his name?
Ciampa.
Karrion Kross or Tommaso Ciampa?
Ciampa, that's it.
Ciampa,
yeah. Looking at him, I was like, I'm really fucking terrified of you.
Yeah, he just looks like an absolute nutcase.
I want to put over Cross's entrance.
No,
I do.
I'm vetoing it immediately.
I do. I liked it.
Just a terrible entrance.
But they had that bit when he got up in the ring and then the wife's head was. I thought it was cool. But I was marking out by this point, I guess. So
this is my major gripe with this match is you're packaging a 6'4", 260-pound man as a monster heel. Like to me, that's emblematic of all the size problems with today's product. The guys being too small. So you cannot package a 6'4", 260-pound man as Vader. Right? Like no, you just can't.
Wait until Halloween this year. That's all I'm saying.
But
plus
again,
you can when the guys he's fighting are 4'2".
But this again, their entrances reinforced the point. There was a heck of a lot of production behind Cross. And again, if we want to mark out about Ciampa, here he comes just strutting in and instantly outdoes the well-produced entrance. And you just think, okay, here we go, kind of thing. He just oozes charisma.
Yeah, I do
like that as well when it's not, there's no theatrics to it. They just fucking look scary and they come to the ring.
Yeah.
It's almost as if I don't care about professional wrestling. I just want to hurt people. And it's like, fuck yeah.
This match, the best thing about it was there's a DDT spot where it looks like Cross lands on his head. It's a really brutal looking DDT, and that was the one highlight for me. Again, it's over before it even begins. It's a squash match.
Yeah.
I didn't like this match either.
But Cross wins.
As a squash match, and fair play to Ciampa getting out there and putting the new guy over, because Cross has been getting pushed really heavily, and he only came in a while ago. But he was getting a lot of exposure before that through social media and stuff, especially with Scarlett Bordeaux. The two were looking at package as a team, like a power couple. But it was fighting Ciampa. I thought, well, that's good. You know, Ciampa's kind of like the guys of NXT. The idea like Cross gone for him kind of makes sense. Try and make a name for yourself, but yeah, at least have it made a contest.
I could have enjoyed this match. Out of context, I would enjoy this match, but the fact that you're splitting the deck between the two main title challenges with a squash match, it doesn't make sense in terms of booking. I'd have opened the show or put this second.
Yeah.
It kills the vibe a little bit. It doesn't go on long. It's not a bad match. I didn't know the card, so it sort of jarred me. And it was like, okay, we've had Cole versus Velveteen Dream. We're now going into the triple threat match. And it's just like, but we got a match in the middle. And it's like, no, it's main event time.
Yeah. I would 100% agree, and that's kind of the problem I had with it. I was definitely into Champ. Like, they must have big plans for him, because Ronaldo was putting them over like crazy, saying that Cross had catch wrestling and Sambo background, which I don't believe for 1 second. And as far as for Lewis's comment about DTT, there was a Northern Light suplex into a mount, which was really impressive. Like, they can both clearly work. And I think that's what almost made it more tragic a little bit, because it could have, I would like to see, but maybe they just don't have confidence in Cross yet. But then if they don't, then why are they pushing them so hard? I liked the open, and one more point, I'm a massive mark for open palm strikes. Instead of, like, my number one gimmick would be someone that bangs on about the rules. So the fact that there was no closed fist punches, I was banging to that for 10 seconds.
My prediction with Cross and his push, I think he'll go to the main roster if it's not before long, but when it does, it's Scarlett Bordeaux who will be the bigger star.
Yeah, I would agree with that. That sounds probably most likely.
I absolutely hated this. Taking a guy with distinct a look as Tommaso Ciampa, like the guy who's been on all the DVD covers, the guy who's been on all the posters, has been the face of your brand, and basically treat him like a developmental talent. It just plummets his stock. It doesn't do anything for him.
I would disagree. I think that attitude is exactly what's wrong with the modern product. They don't take chances like this to raise up-and-coming stars, and that's why we're running out of them very quick, thick and fast. I think personally, I think you've not seen much of the modern product. By this point, I've seen enough Ciampa. I don't mind them kind of wasting some time with this and putting someone else over. You've not seen enough of him. I would go back and watch his stuff, and you probably have your fill of him as much as we have. And you would be maybe less inclined to feel as passionate about that.
But Ciampa felt like one of those guys I just immediately latched onto. Like, all throughout this pay-per-view, there's him and Keith Lee, and you look at it and you think money. Like, Tommaso Ciampa just looks at someone like me he should not have to do this shit. He should not be jobbing out in 2 minutes.
Someone has to, though, and that's the point.
I don't see this Cross guy doing big business. Like, he just looks like a I know you hate the phrase indie darling, but to me, 6'4", 260-pound monster heel. Like, no. I know I've watched so much 96, 97, 98 stuff that it sort of gets lost in the shuffle, but I don't see this guy doing big business.
I don't either, but somebody does, and and if that is the case, then I don't think they've committed some horrendous crime kind of thing. Ciampa's going to be just fine.
It depends where Ciampa goes next as well, because if Ciampa gets a call up, then it makes sense he's going to go on his back and his way out. Bear in mind, as we keep mentioning, as a developmental company, there's still somewhere for Ciampa to go. Ciampa can get beat off a new guy in NXT and not be harmed overall character-wise.
He's not getting squashed in the main event of Mania. I'd say that's killer for you. I think. Yeah. I mean, this is a developmental pay-per-view in the middle of a global pandemic with no audience. It's a house show on wheels, man.
The greatest house show you've ever seen in that case.
Pretty much, yeah. It's one of those. It's not. It's pretty much fake. It's like, just do what you want with it, because no one's ever going to recall that moment.
But again, I'm not a huge fan of backstage politicking. But if had Tommaso seen the outline for this match and played the old "that's not going to work for me, brother" angle, I wouldn't have blamed him. I would not have blamed him.
Well, he's a good man, and he didn't.
Yeah, he's too
and
wholesome for the business, clearly.
Yeah, I think it was fine. But the thing that, yeah, it's way too high up in the card. That doesn't compute with me at all.
That's the jarring thing for me. That's why I didn't enjoy it, because it's main event time. It's not a quick roll in the hay time.
Would you think they kind of put it there in that case just because it was a kind of throwaway match in many ways? Obviously, it's there to make Cross look good, but in terms of the actual, not the result, but the actual match itself, it was 6 minutes long. It was just kind of like, right, let's put it in there so nobody's too drained, nobody's too pumped up or anything for the main event. They can go into the main event on, it was like resetting in a way. You're getting your palate cleansed to go into the main event fresh.
I can see it from that point of view, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so.
Again, I'm still not.
WrestleMania 30, you had Brock versus Undertaker, then a Divas Battle Royal, then the main event. Could you imagine they had Taker versus Lesnar, then the main event?
Aye, fair enough.
You need something in between to kind of reset your...
Mania is about 10 hours long, though. Well, it was at that point, near enough.
Rumours are it's still on.
Oh.
Same thing with Mania 13. Everyone always remembers it being Austin and Brett and then Sid and Taker, but everyone forgets that it was Ahmed and Legion of Doom versus the Nation of Domination, and that just sort of casually lowered expectations after Austin and Brett.
Sure, the Legion of Doom don't see it that way.
We're watching a pay-per-view where the Nation of Domination, Los Pericos, DOA, any of these guys are eventually not in it. Why do we need to bring them up just now?
You're getting like the buggy-eyed Vietnam style flashbacks, yeah. Listen, I'll happily diverge. I'll get into the triple threat women's title match. Nice segue there. This is one very, very overproduced opening package. In the prelude to this match, you've got the Sports Illustrated clippings, the ESPN clippings, the Sport Bible, division of that Bible in the.
I thought it was
the way they're trying to package today's product is like it's a real, the newspaper clippings of they're so legit, and it's this is a work. This works so much better when everyone's aware of the work.
That's not true at all.
No,
that's not true at all. No. The business is it works its best when there's a certain degree of believability in it. That's why the Taker and Lesnar thing worked. Okay. It's because for 5 seconds, every single one of us believed that Lesnar was just a dick and held the guy down. And that was the biggest moment in the last 10 years for me, and I'm sure it is for a majority of people. I think no. You're completely wrong here, bud.
No, wait a minute. One of the best pay-per-views that we watched, that we originally watched, was Mania 14, which features a match which includes an opening package where a character who's 7 foot tall in a mask shoots lightning out of his fingers. And you're going to tell me that today's product is better than 98?
Well, look, right. It was less widespread back then that it was fake. There was plenty of people sitting there. I don't know. I was sitting there in '98, but then I was a child. I was. I think the opening promo was the best on the card. I loved the mentions of Forbes and the likes. I think it was great. It puts the match over, puts every individual in the match over as a serious contender for Flair, despite the fact that in the past you've been pushed to the moon as a monster heel and otherwise. I think, but yeah, that's a bigger conversation for another day, considering we've got so much to get through tonight. I think you're completely wrong, though.
I feel now we can talk about how bad the entrance themes are. Besides Charlotte Flair's, I can't for the life of me mind either Io Shirai's or Rhea Ripley's.
Flair's is particularly bad.
Well, because it's the disco spin on the old Ric Flair. So
I can't take her serious one bit.
Oh, but that theme music, it's the theme music is fine. It's just when you start hearing Ric Flair's music as well, and it's like a Clubland remix of Ric Flair's theme tune.
a bad
Vince.
Clubland remix of Flair's theme tune.
Yeah.
But come on, if any of us in a
that's
nightclub
nature.
ever again, and Charlotte Flair's music, just come on. You've
I'd
got
be
the
right down
dance
the
floor.
front left.
Chopping your pals back and forth.
Woo.
Right. The minute we see Charlotte, I just want to obviously ask you, because again my attention span's not that great, but the NXT men and women's titles, are they the same belt? Because they certainly look the same in my mind.
I'm pretty sure they are at this point.
I don't think there's much in the
think-
way.
I think the whole point's meant to be that they're on an even tier, so why would you separate them, the two, kind of thing?
Yeah, but why put flibbles and pink on one, for example?
Yeah, or even change the colour, because then you make them both look daft. SmackDown, Raw.
The minute they get in the ring, you get this weird kind of boxing style. Here's where they're from, here's their name, but they forget to announce the weight or that. It feels like they want to go legit to a point.
It's rude to talk about a women's weight, Lewis.
Yeah, I know, but for the sake of this boxing style presentation, since they all of a sudden they want to be fucking ESPN, they take it to a certain point and then just it always feels like this weird mishmash. Like they want to be shoot style.
Do you put this on par with the Butterbean versus Mark Marrow gimmick? Like, do you see all this and think it's the same thing? I want to know this.
I feel
you're explaining it the exact same.
I didn't like Mark Merrill versus Butterbean either.
Right. Okay.
Okay. Charlotte, all of a sudden, even though she's the champion, she feels like a Goliath compared to these other two. Like, I don't know what height she is, but she looks like 6'6". She feels head and shoulders above the rest of them. That's a weird little side note I just made. The match, it has a pretty slow start, but then it immediately builds up. It is actually one of the better matches on the card.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was a cracking match. My main issue, I get Charlotte Flair is brilliant. I get she's a cracking wrestler. I don't need to be reminded of it every single show. And I don't mean that for the commentators putting her over. I mean the fact that people say Roman Reigns is overexposed. Roman Reigns is on the undercard fighting the Brooklyn Brawler by comparison to Charlotte Flair. She wins the Royal Rumble. Nobody likes it. But you think to yourself, well, where are they going to go with it? Always thinking of a long-term plan. She challenges not for the women's title on Raw or SmackDown, for the NXT title. So you're thinking, oh, that's quite different. She fights Rhea Ripley at WrestleMania, but then she wins. And you think, okay, so where are they going with this now? Because the whole idea of that would have been maybe she loses to Ripley, doesn't harm Flair, but really throws Ripley into the stratosphere by beating somebody at Charlotte Flair's level. But no, she wins. So you think to say, okay, where are they going for it? Oh, well, they're now putting Charlotte Flair on NXT. That's going to maybe get a bump in ratings-wise. But then you realise every time you turn the TV on, she's there. She's on SmackDown, she's on Raw, she's on NXT. I'm waiting for it to pop up on 205 Live at some point. And as much as I think she's a cracking wrestler, they really need to give us a bit less here to really appreciate her.
100%.
Because there's talks of her fighting for the men's title, and you're like, legitimately, I can see why you would pick her. Just bring it in a bit.
She had a few botches in this match as well. Again, I don't doubt that she's a great talent, but there was one specific spot where they tried to turn a Hurricanrana into a crossface, and it just looked so messy. It did not gel well at all. It wasn't fluid.
I mean, she's obviously a huge talent, and I really enjoyed her, and she's been at the top of her game for quite a while now, so I can't say jack shit, but at the same time, she's too much like her dad as well. It feels like you're trying to push her as the greatest women's talent in the company at the moment, and all I'm seeing is just a tribute act to Ric Flair. Like, I'm not seeing any variation in her style.
I feel like the thing that saves her is, regardless of how they treat her in the past, present, or future, she's always going to be iconic, and it's purely not because of her dad, but the achievements, the way that she is a massive part of being able to kind of put women on even keel with men as far as the WWE goes. So I feel like the iconoclasm more comes from that as opposed to being Ric Flair's daughter personally. I'm 100% with Thomas though in that she's overexposed, but I can't help but feel like that's because what's her name? The man? She's gone. She's
Lynch.
pregnant.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lynch. Yeah, and that was their other star, and she's gone now. So.
But the thing is, I mean, the women's roster in WWE across the board for NXT upwards is really, really strong. You've got such great talent there. But
And they built up though.
Yeah, because you've got Sasha Banks, you've got Bayley, you had Sasha Banks, Bayley, Lynch, and Flair with the 4 horsewomen in NXT.
Yeah.
Only one of them really, well, Lynch kind of went to the moon as well. You had Ronda Rousey, she's not there anymore. Shayna Baszler is really good. Shayna Baszler, sorry, she's very good. But like your Banks and your Baileys and stuff, who at one point were on the same level as Flair in popularity, got pushed down to push her up. It wasn't a kind of case of let's try and put them all up at the same time or keep them at a certain level. They were actively pushed down to make Flair look better, and Lynch for that matter. I thought Lynch was starting to get quite overexposed by the end. And Asuka's incredible. She's like arguably the fan favourite of the women's division, and they treat her with nothing but contempt. Even this title she has now, she was given the title.
Yeah.
And all they had to do at the Money in the Bank was have Lynch announce she was pregnant beforehand and make the Money in the Bank match a title match rather than a next night on Raw. It just seemed again too much about Lynch and not enough about Asuka's actual champion.
Me and Cammy talked about this at one point in a little private chat. We feel like they certainly jumped the gun with Lynch. It was like she broke her nose, and then the next month they put the world title on her. It was like, I mean, people forget King of the Ring '96. Austin had to wait near enough 2 years before he got the strap. I mean, but the problem with Lynch is Lynch never had the Austin Brett match. She never had the match that said, okay, first try. This is who we can put the company on the back of. It's like they humped it. They saw that Becky Lynch was trending because she got juice because she broke her nose, and they think, right, let's make her the face of the company.
It's not 100. Sorry, on you go, Ollie.
That's my real issue with the modern product. Again, there's no real long-term plan for anybody. Like Lewis said, it seems like they're just driven by analytics now. Like, Becky Lynch starts trending, so we'll put the strap on her. I don't know, Roman Reigns his t-shirts make more money, so let's push him to the moon. It doesn't feel like they're thinking 2-3 years ahead at the moment. They're just thinking, let's make a quick buck off the popular person.
I would disagree with Reigns a wee bit there because obviously I know you're coming from Fatality's point of view, and I'm going to kind of contradict myself a little because like people talk about how Reigns wasn't popular in that. But his segments, like on the YouTube channel, had the highest hits. If you had a thumbnail, it depends if people are watching it to give him hate or because they like him. They're buying his t-shirts to burn them or wear them. He's popular with somebody. And there's a reason. And to talk about the long-term plan idea, they were building him to be the next Cena and to be that face of the company going forward. But with Lynch, I think it was quite knee-jerky. And they kind of kept on that spot for too long, in my opinion.
I mean, the thing with Roman Reigns, I just couldn't think of anybody. I wasn't using him as a specific example. I was just like, fuck, who's popular?
Because he was like the biggest selling t-shirt guy on the full-time roster.
They were building up as the next big company guy. I'm not using him as the example of them being knee-jerk. I was just trying to think of like their data-driven approach to story writing.
When Lewis mentions, Lynch especially, but any of the 4 horsewomen kind of, like it just seemed to have happened. You need to kind of remember that the women's division would not have been, the women's division happened in spite of WWE directives. So when you're saying they didn't have Stone Cold versus Brett, they did multiple times, but it wasn't given the spotlight it was supposed to. They had long storylines where they were having classic after classic, but the problem is that by the time the WWE finally started to take notice, it was already kind of old news for everyone except from them. So it felt really forced because they were playing catch up, and that's kind of like the big tragedy of all of that, is that if it was played correctly outside of NXT, it could have been mega stardom, whereas it was obviously a big thing for the company moving forward, and they did make stars of them. It wasn't like as big as it could have been. It always could have been bigger.
No,
That's
I'll stipulate to that. I will agree that even though they maybe have had Austin Brett tier matches, they were just buried.
yeah.
Certainly, again, it does feel like we have heard ebbs and flows like Charlotte and Becky. Charlotte's perfectly good. She is probably a 5 out of 5, but just she doesn't. Well, again, maybe it's all about the partner though, isn't it? You know, as good as Charlotte is, it's true also they had to really be a name presence. Like Austin was making waves when he had the match with Brett. People were really starting to take notice of him, whereas I feel like with Becky, there wasn't that time given.
They've never had an instance where like the organic growth of a superstar and their directive work organically as it did with Austin back then. And I don't feel like it's happened since personally.
Maybe the problem is we have to stop comparing everything to Austin and Brett. We really have to do it. I mean, it's about 23 years since that match. We really have to move on at this point, I would imagine. I mean, maybe people forget, like, that match was lightning in a bottle. It was one generation getting passed on to the new generation. You know, Brett made Austin. And then
You brought it up, Lewis. I am more than happy with this pay-per-view.
Again, that match just keeps coming up time and time again. It's like the classic passing of the torch. Maybe we have to forget about it. Getting on to, you know, God, I've really strayed away. The match. Haven't we? Yeah, this should have ended 5 minutes before it did. It should have ended with Peaky Blinders giving Charlotte the big second rope, kind of inverse pump handle slam or whatever it was. And again,
I really like that, but yeah, it felt like the match really should have ended at that point. That felt like a finisher. I know the done thing nowadays is to do 30 finishers before you get the finish, but that's a finisher.
Yeah.
It goes into such overkill with Charlotte using the kendo stick. Like, it was a perfect. You don't need a weapon to make up. It just felt like complete overbooking. It could have. The weapon, I think, actually sort of took away from the.
I personally felt it was addressing some of your, or I don't think it was your concerns, maybe Thomas's, but I think the point is meant to be that if it weren't for the kendo stick, she wouldn't be able to hang with the other two. I know that isn't really believable, but from a booking standpoint, I think personally that's what they were maybe going for, is that, you know, the reason she comes across as so strong is because she's a cheater, she's a heel, that type of thing.
Which is fine, and see if she took the pin, everything from the Royal Rumble to this point would have been worth it. But she loses the title without taking the fall, and then she comes on to Raw the next night and starts challenging Asuka for the women's title. And it's okay, how do you automatically walk into a women's championship match here when you've just been beat? And it's Asuka's now eventually starting to rebuild some of her momentum after Charlotte Flair snuffed it out at WrestleMania and ended her undefeated streak. Unless Charlotte Flair takes the loss here, and this should be Asuka, I think there's no crowd to turn ugly. I just don't see the point yet, other than let's just book Flair strong again. She really needs to rein it in a bit. Or does she beat Asuka and then go on to fight Drew McIntyre? Who knows?
But I didn't call Io Shirai getting the win. I could not have called that whatsoever.
I didn't see it.
I will give this a 4 out of 5. You know, I'm going to say it's a solid, impressive. I think it loses a star on account of the overtime and the kendo stick, but it's solid. I can't complain. Well, I can, but you know, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5.
I like Io Shirai as well, so I'm quite happy to see her with the belt and see what she does with it.
Yeah, this is my first time watching IO, and same with Rhea Ripley as well, but I'd never heard of either of them. And I was really, really impressed by this. It did go on a little too long, and I think with Rhea Ripley, it was a false finish. But I don't feel cheated by the result either.
I feel like it's important to emphasise how much of a big character the audience is in the NXT show. If you go back and watch any other TakeOver, although they've done a good job here and replacing the fact they're not there, I feel like maybe I would have felt less fatigued. I would have been just as jacked up as they would have been at this kind of thing. But I do feel like it went on that little bit too long.
Yeah.
I can't deny, though, the work. I do have the same problems with Thomas as that he does with Charlotte Flair. And I'm actually struggling to give it a 4, other than the fact of how well booked it was. The right person, I think, actually went over, because I think I'm very sorry, I'm forgetting her name again. Who?
Io Shirai?
Yeah, Shirai, I felt like, is the only person that actually could have benefited from winning the title. I feel like Peaky Blinders is going to be fine either way, and so is Flair. I'll give it the 4 for that reason, but by this point I was getting a little bit fatigued, but it's probably because I'd just marked out so much throughout the night. I really enjoyed myself.
Well, something I thought was really, really interesting was we get Ronaldo's call at the end. It was like, oh, like this is just like Japan with the streamers and everything.
Yeah, I know.
And suddenly there was the light bulb moment and it clicked. That this is what NXT wants to be. It wants to be New Japan. It's just that it's everything now catered towards feels like the Dave Meltzer 6 3/4 stars. And then the Tokyo, it feels like maybe that's where the divide is between me and the modern product. Like it just like they're trying to cater too hard to the Meltzers of this world.
It's important to mention that they've actually had moments like that have organically happened in their show, where the fans have done it off their own back, and it has been the moment that they were trying to recreate here. Obviously, this is completely manufactured. It's not a real audience. Ronaldo had to point it out. I didn't actually enjoy that. It felt a bit much, other than the fact that, here, I hope you feel more well at home, because this would be happening if you want to strap back where you're from, kind of thing. But it did feel a bit manufactured, but it's important to mention they've had really cool moments before with the streamers and stuff.
Opinion on this pay-per-view as a whole. I'm sorry. I really am sorry. I'm going to absolutely dash your dreams here, Cammy. I'm going to give it a 2 out of 5.
Wow. I think that's even with what you've said through the pay-per-view, I think you're just being mean there. You've given one of the matches a 4 out of 5, which I don't even think you've done.
In your house. It's not an in your house. Sorry. Not an in your house. I'm respectfully bowing. I hope we can still be friends after this, Cammy, but
But with the podcast that I've been on, I don't think you've ever given a single match a 4 out of 5, and you've at least given them a 3 out of 5 for the pay-per-view overall.
The fact that they crushed Tommaso Ciampa so hard.
You don't even know who he is. You've watched this product for 5 seconds.
As far as marketing goes, no, they crushed him.
I'm just going to ignore you. What did you think, Thomas?
I'd give the event a 4 out of 5 overall. The only match I didn't really enjoy was the 2 matches. The movie one, the title match, didn't do much for me, and I don't mind Ciampa taking the loss. I just didn't like it being a squash. It didn't do much for me other than that.
Yeah.
I will go 4 out of 5 as well, just purely because that Backlot Brawl match was fucking terrible. But the rest of it was really good.
So, I'll give it. I want to give it a 4.5, and the 0.5 being caveat that they managed to pull this off in spite of what's going on at the moment. I think is worth a heck of a tip of the hat, my lady. That's just like that's my opinion, kind of thing. I really enjoyed this, and the fact that they managed to pull it off in spite of everything that's going on, where every other product is kind of not phoned it in, but not managed to be this successful. I think it's really impressive.
I wouldn't disagree with that, to be honest.
Yeah, no one. Think the entire world right now, no one else is doing this. Whenever can you point out another in your house and say that any of them have been successful of that? I'm just grinding your gears now, pal, but yeah.
I know, that sounded like a statement that was almost automatically designed to get on my tits.
Oh.
It's better than fucking Canadian Stampede, is it?
Maybe not that far, but...
Yeah.
4.5.
Okay, I'll interest that a bit. Where does this sit on the In Your House rank, like, from what we've watched before? On a scale of 1 being Bad Blood and 10 being Canadian Stampede, where would you put this at?
It's difficult to compare it, especially a Canadian Stampede aspect, when the crowd were a big part of the Canadian Stampede, a massive part of that, especially that main event. And this is a show without that, but it's one of the better in your houses of the later eras in your house, in my opinion. And by that I mean Bad Blood onwards.
I was about to say, but at the same time, so we've not watched the whole raft of In Your Houses as well, so it's hard to...
Oh, but I've seen them.
I would put this just below Ground Zero. I don't mean that like actual In Your House Ground Zero. I didn't mean like zero. I was completely tripped over myself here, but you know what I mean.
I actually agree with both Ollie and Thomas, and would even go as far to say that despite the fact I absolutely loved this, I almost feel like it's not fair to compare the two, because the way that In Your House was initially made and who they were catering to, it's almost not fair. You're going for two completely different audiences and styles and stuff. Actually, but if I had to, I would say it's up there as far as the later ones go. Same as Thomas said.
I'd put it about a 6 or something.
I'd maybe put it a bit higher, but yeah.
Yes, Ollie. Yes.
But again, I'm not
to the whims of Cameron. You make up your own mind. You stand. Don't be afraid. Don't.
I'll not be cowed by him.
Just this guy's a nice background. It doesn't mean you have to follow him into that.
But again, it's one of those. It's quite hard to compare it for me, because at the same time, no one makes me mark out like Shawn Michaels, and I think again that clouds my judgment. Like,
he was technically there.
Yeah, but he's not. He's not elbow dropping some cunt.
God damn it. Okay.
So shall we move on to our closing segment before this devolves into all-out fucking faction war?
I was about to really
I'm going to point at the WrestleMania sign right now, brother.
Yeah. Right. Report. Reason Bruce Pritchard replaced Paul Heyman as WWE Raw Executive Director revealed by Aidan Gibbons of Cultaholic.com. Now, I thought this was an absolutely fascinating article. If nothing else, then it's quite funny noting the Chris Jericho interview one time when he said like Vince absolutely hates yes men. And I think that was 10, 20 years ago, as opposed to now where he's completely filled himself to the brim with yes men. What do you guys make of this article?
I was a bit disappointed to see Heyman being taken off, especially because I don't really watch Raw too much, to be fair, but for what I've read about it and the stars that I've seen getting the push, I'm quite happy with. Although I must add that one of the most hated Raw segments that people are going to go on about was the Bobby Lashley and Rusev cuck angle, for lack of a better term. All you heard was people shitting this and hate it and complain. It was Paul Heyman. I had Paul Heyman written all over it. And not only that, it was one of the highest rated segments across YouTube and things like that. People loved it. People may have bitch. Yeah. It was very popular. Whether people liked it or not, it was very popular. So I'm disappointed to see Heyman go. It's disappointing to see Bischoff go, because I thought it would be an interesting dynamic of Raw versus SmackDown. Is he one guy in charge of both? How do you create that competition?
Yeah, 100%. I actually don't hold Heyman as in high regard as a lot of people seem to do. I think he's a fantastic mind and instigator, but as far as booking goes, he was just lucky that he started a promotion with so many people that were willing to go and do some crazy things for him. If you look back at the actual storylines, other than pushing the envelope as far as ratings, like actual age ratings and things were concerned, what was allowed on television and what wasn't, he wasn't, in my opinion, doing anything groundbreaking or even on par with some of the things that the Fed would end up doing without him, basically. Sorry.
No, carry on.
Well, I understand people point to that time when he ran SmackDown, for instance. But again, he was gifted with some fantastic talent. Not to say that he isn't now, but I don't see, people are crying out like this is it. Raw's finally going to go under because Heyman isn't there. I don't have the same opinion whatsoever.
Yeah, I've always seen him as a guy who does a decent job when he has good talent.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like with ECW, if he'd instead done like fucking hillbilly backwater wrestling, you'd have never heard of him. Past that, it's only the fact he started Extreme Championship Wrestling that he got where he is. And yeah, I like Paul Heyman, the character. I like Paul Heyman, the guy, but I've never been enamored.
The thing this article really reminded me of was the rise and fall of ECW DVD that they did all the way back in 2004. Now I know we've all seen that, so there's no point. But there was always that really interesting Devon Dudley quote, which is Paul's a fantastic mind, a fantastic booker, and a horrible businessman. He couldn't get out of his own way. Had he just complied to TNN standards, he'd be running ECW right now as we speak. He would have taken Ring of Honor's place as like the third company. But it's just Paul again. There's the Paul Heyman documentary that they did as well on the network. He's like the honey badger thing with Vince. Like he can't take no for an answer. Like he will continually just nag at Vince to get his way. And I think the Vince McMahon of 2000 is not the same Vince McMahon of 2020.
Oh, 100%.
I know obviously that I think Vince just wants people that agree with him, and I think that's really hurting today's product.
I think the time where the federations was ever at its best is when there was a perfect marriage between road agents and writers, when they might not be the perfect ensemble of agents or writers, but when they're both half decent at their job, working together, is when you got the best product kind of thing. When people look back and say, oh, Russo this or Heyman that or Pritchard this kind of thing, I don't think it makes much of a difference. At the end of the day, it all went through McMahon. I think the problem is just genuinely him at this point.
I'd agree with that, because I'm looking at NXT, watching NXT and loving it.
Yeah.
It's a case of when do you turn to Paul and say, take it over, man, because he's clearly doing good things, and the fact he is a business guy. He has worked in this business, and fair enough, he's politicked and fucked his way to the top. But at the same time, he knows this business inside out. And even if someone's trying to start politicking.
Oh, but Heyman, he's like a total John Jones figure, isn't it? Like he managed to get people that pretty much worked him in ECW for free. I mean, the blank checks and all that. I mean, it's infamous. He is a master at getting people on your side.
Basically what this was a response to shareholders. Something has to change whenever there has to be an excuse for bad ratings. And eventually they'll get clever enough to say, well, why is there consistent bad ratings instead of these changes? And that will be the point where they'll look at... The problem is now is NXT's ratings aren't great either. And I think that's a lot to do with the pandemic, because the product overall, in my opinion, is great. I would watch it from a week to week. And I plan on doing that. From now on after this, whereas I would dip in and out before.
Sorry, I was just trying to interrupt for 2 seconds. Did we not talk about this before? Like, there's never been a better time where more people are inside, more people are watching television, and there's never been a time where less people are watching WWE.
But then that's
where something's wrong. That chicanery in the cage, that you've got a captive audience, and at no point I'm like, I could really do with watching Raw this week.
And that's because that kind of your biggest marketing ploys. Also, your event's going to limit you, because people will tune into Raw and say, "Oh, where's the crowd?" and turn back off.
Yeah.
Like I know a guy that doesn't watch wrestling, and it was on Channel 5, the highlight show, and he messaged me in one of the group chats. He's like, "I just turned the wrestling on there. What the hell's going on with the lack of crowd? It's really weird." And he's a passing, just flicking the channels kind of guy. If you really like wrestling, this is the worst time to try and get back into it, because you're not going to like what you see. You're not going to give it a chance.
And unfortunately, so long as Vince has got an excuse to throw at the shareholders, he will maintain control. But there will come a day, in my opinion, where he'll have to answer for his many sins, and that's the point where the shareholders will probably just say to him, "Look, either you give Paul the ropes, or none of yous get it, and we're just putting our own guys in there." Because it's a publicly traded company and they can do that. The McMahons, Levesque, whatever, they've all flip-flopped their shares so much where that's actually a realistic possibility that could happen one day if they don't sort themselves out.
It's interesting.
Sorry, I was just going to say, did Paul not sell like $1 million in stock recently?
Yeah, he did, yeah.
It's what you say, like the Vince of now isn't the Vince of then. you can see that in many different ways, for as a creative point of view, as a booker, as a businessman, but specifically as a business point. And you did mention the fact it's a publicly traded company now. It wasn't always, and there was a time where nobody really had to answer to anybody but Vince. But even now Vince is answering to people, and yeah, you're right. It's like, why are the ratings not improved? If Paul Heyman is so wonderful, why didn't the ratings improve so greatly? But the ratings aren't the big thing now as well.
It's money.
It's a different ball game, completely different landscape. It's not the same as the Monday Night Wars, where it was a battle for ratings. It's a totally different battlefield now.
Well, me and Lewis were talking about this, is that regardless of where the ratings are at the moment, I'm pretty sure profits have never been better, and it's due to a number of things. And it's more like lifelines. They're not future-proofing themselves by any means. They're getting thrown lifelines from the Saudis and etc. These are like limited-time deals that are making them more profitable than ever. That money will run out eventually, as mind-boggling as the number is. And it's at the point where that money meets where the ratings are, where it'll change overnight. And that's my opinion on it. There'll come a point where they've got no say in it.
Yeah.
And it'll get to a point where Vince just runs out of people to fire as well.
Oh, aye.
And I don't think he'd ever fire Paul. I don't think he'd get rid of like Shane or Stephanie as well.
I don't think Shane's been involved in a long time, has he?
Has he not gone back to being involved? Has he not come back from China? Or am I getting
yeah, he did as an on-screen talent, and somewhat as almost like not an agent per se, but backstage support kind of thing. But I'm pretty sure he's not really there full time at all. He just pops his head in and out. Stephanie is, though, and I don't think Stephanie's the problem. If anything, Stephanie, in my opinion, over the past 20 years has proved herself to be quite a valuable asset, same as her husband has, maybe more so if you combine that together. Now their value is much higher than that of Vince's.
I just checked it. Shane is a minority owner and producer, so he's probably more involved than I thought he was. But he's not it doesn't seem to be anywhere near involved in the same way that Stephanie and obviously Triple H is.
I think if you just look at NXT as a is a fantastic sort of almost like a ship in the bottle. It's a small ecosystem that kind of shows you how things could be, and it's just through some simple things. Like you can, like when you look at the first match, there is Triple H's template is right on view, right? But the main difference is that Triple H then gives the talent and the talent in front of the camera and behind it, the road agents, the writers, they give them the time and the platform to actually sculpt something that's worthwhile. Whereas that's just not. Vince is trying to micromanage a company that's mind-boggling. It's huge. Like the idea that he thinks he can do that just is such a testament to the man's ego.
Yeah, because look at the company now compared to them. Back then you had Raw. That was it. That was the only show to really worry about yourself. You had Raw every Monday and the pay-per-view. Now you've got Raw, SmackDown, NXT, 205 Live, and
5 hours of television a week.
It's insane. You mentioned nobody's got enough time to watch every WWE product. It's absolutely mental to be expect anybody. People will watch it, let's be honest, but the average fan just can't keep up with it all.
To be fair, I've not got an answer for them in that regard. They've built a network and they're struggling to fill it, and an answer to that is more shows. Other than giving people way more control, like almost starting like if you had 205 Live almost as its own promotion maybe kind of thing with other people behind the scenes, and then you own that, so you can do what you want with that kind of thing. If it ever turns, if you bet on a horse, don't just it's weird for a man in his position. He doesn't take a lot of risks, and I think that's some of the problem.
I actually think Monday to Friday you have a new WWE show every night of the week. The Monday you've got Raw, obviously. Tuesday I think was 205 Live. Wednesday NXT. Thursday was NXT UK, and Friday SmackDown.
Yep.
That's every single night you've got a new wrestling show. Now, if I was 14, 15, I'd have been loving that, because I'm not really doing much else. I'm just sitting there all the time watching wrestling.
Over the course. Yeah, sorry.
So it's kind of it's difficult for anybody to expect to watch that much, but at the same time you don't have to, because they're all independent of each other in a way as well. You don't have to watch NXT UK to know what's happening on Monday night.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, that's what I was about to say. I can't speak for 205 Live. I know nothing about it, but Wednesday and Thursday, NXT and NXT UK, they're their own wee islands, and they actually benefit from that, not having Vince looming over them and just having that freedom to kind of vibe and do what they want. They're the better shows for it, in my opinion. And I think, if anything, that he should take that as an example as to how he should run the rest of his business now. But his ego just is clearly not going to let him do that.
And it really shows as well that a lot of people that watch the main product may not necessarily watch NXT, where you see a star get called up without much introduction or fanfare, and it just goes like a lead balloon, because the crowd are like, okay, who is this person? Because whether we can slag ratings and that all we want, Raw's ratings still dwarf NXT's.
Yeah, it's a bizarre world we find ourselves in as far as the Fed's in at this point.